How did Iran get from this to this to this? The unrest we're seeing right now is not isolated. Iranian streets have looked like this on and off for decades. This is just the latest chapter in a much longer story, one shaped by foreign influence, oil, and repeated clashes over who really holds power. But why does Iran keep reaching this breaking point? And what do oil and Britain have to do with it? Let's start in 1906. That's when Iran established its first parliament, the Majlis. It was a huge moment. For the first time, the power of the king, or the Shah, was meant to be limited by elected representatives. But in reality, the parliament was fragile from the start, weakened by royal interference, political instability, and pressures from foreign powers. And this is where oil enters the story. In 1909, a British geologist struck oil in Iran, and the Anglo-Persian Oil Company was founded. It was the first company to extract petroleum from Iran. And in 1913, Winston Churchill, who was then head of the Royal Navy, bought a controlling stake in it. That meant the British government became the hidden power behind the oil company. Fast forward to World War II. In 1941, Britain and the Soviet Union invaded Iran. Officially, it was about protecting supply routes to the USSR. But it was also very much about securing Iranian oil fields. The Iranian army was easily overpowered and offered little resistance, but the country needed public reassurance. So, in 1943, the Allied leaders, Churchill, Roosevelt and Stalin, met in Tehran and issued the Tehran Declaration, promising to respect Iran's independence. It was meant to calm tensions and prevent unrest. But British troops and Soviet troops stayed until 1946, and most Iranians were still living in deep poverty. Once again, there was a gap between promises made by outside powers and life on the ground that fueled calls for real independence and for control over Iran's own oil. In this protest, Iranians occupied the building of the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company and smashed its sign, leaving only the Persian word for Iran. Then, in 1951, this man, Mohammad Mossadegh, was elected Prime Minister. He basically questioned why British companies still controlled Iranian oil and tried to change it. So Iran's parliament voted to nationalise the oil industry and to expel foreign companies. This was enormously popular in Iran. In Britain, it wasn't. Just 2 years later, in 1953, the UK and the US orchestrated a coup, removing Mossadegh to protect Western oil interests.
In the military court at Tehran, where he's been on trial for treason, the Persian ex-premier, Dr. Mossadegh, demonstrates that he knows how to make an entrance.
After the coup, the Shah ruled more firmly than ever. Backed by the US, he presented himself as a modern, pro-Western leader.
The White House is ablaze as the Shah and his lovely queen arrive for a state dinner.
In the 1960s, he launched the White Revolution, a series of ambitious reforms designed to rapidly modernize the country. During that period, a minor industrial revolution happened, more people enrolled in schools, and women gained the right to vote. But while some parts of Iranian society changed, political freedom didn't. Change was imposed from the top down and was closely aligned with Western powers. Many people still lived in poverty. The resentment cut across society and alienated the clergy, merchants, and rural workers. By 1978, anti-government protests were spreading. And in 1979, the Shah was removed from power during the Islamic Revolution. That's when the monarchy was replaced with the Islamic Republic. The leader of the revolution was Ruhollah Khomeini, an Islamist cleric who rejected Western influence and the Shah's model of change. At first, the revolution promised independence, justice and freedom from foreign control. But it also brought strict social rules, limited political freedoms, and harsh punishment for dissent. Just a year later, Iraq invaded Iran, triggering an 8-year war that killed hundreds of thousands and helped the new regime tighten its grip on power. And since then, protests have never really stopped. In 1999, students demanded greater freedoms. In 2009, millions took to the streets over disputed elections. In 2017 and 2019, protests erupted over economic hardship. And in 2022, Outrage over the death of Mahsa Amini sparked the biggest challenge to the system in a generation. Each time, the pattern has been the same. Protests grow, and the state responds with force. Today's unrest fits squarely with that history. When people protest in Iran today, they're not just reacting to inflation or social controls. They're pushing back against a century-long history shaped by oil, foreign interference, and decisions made without them. Britain's role in Iran helped shape that history, and the consequences of it are still playing out on the streets today. The question now is whether this latest wave of protest marks another moment of repression or the beginning